in the Rules Committee at this time, and we have a number of 16-year-olds coming to talk about voting as a 16-year-old. This is a really important bill to me. It's one of those that really hit a chord. As a high school principal, I felt failure every time one of those students that I had at that school didn't finish or complete. Came across so many kids who, for conditions in their lives, nothing to do with their intelligence, nothing to do with behavior, but circumstances in their lives, family members who got sick and they stayed home to take care of them and got too far behind, didn't want to come back. As I've gotten to know more about how we keep records, I recognize that we have this big database that we keep waiting for to come out and to use, and we don't even collect the number of credits kids earned, including those that have not finished. We have a standard where we figure out how many credits they earned in their ninth grade so that we can have ninth grade on track, so find out that they're going to be ready. But how many kids are out there 1 or 2 credits short? And they've never had someone in the community say to them, hey, why don't you come on down, we'll figure out a way for you to finish that up, get your diploma. How many kids are out there who, through no fault of their own, but to take care of their families, went and got a job, took care of their families, and the rest went on? I worked at a mill when I got out of high school. One of the most intelligent people I have ever met. Worked as a machinist in that mill, and I worked with him. And we were talking one time, and he said, he had a scholarship to go to the University of Washington and do all these other kind of things. And his dad got sick and died, and he was the breadwinner. So he went to work at the mill, and it paid well, and he's had a great life, and he doesn't regret anything that he did with respect to taking care of his family and doing those things. But there's a part of him that always wished he could have shown that he could have gotten that college degree. So what we're asking for here is to give kids an opportunity. And I think we had testimony last night for the Student Success Committee about equity. And I want to talk about one of the things that came up and struck me again last night. And I'd heard it before, but it hadn't really resonated with me. But I knew I was talking about this bill today. And that was, why do we call them dropouts when for most of them they were pushed out? They were pushed out by schools who said, your attendance is really bad. And, they didn't ask, why is your attendance bad? What can we do to help you get here? They just said, if you're not going to be here, maybe you shouldn't be here. Or the student that was falling behind and couldn't get any help and didn't know what to do and acted out. And so the behaviors got to the point where the school just said, I think you'd probably be better out in the real world. There are a lot of those kids that they didn't drop out. They were pushed out by the rest of us, by society, by them not fitting in and feeling uncomfortable in that school setting and the place they were. And no one stepped up to say, we really care about you and we want you to be here. You will probably hear stories, and if you haven't, of amazing people making amazing choices 20 years later in their life when they went back to community college and got a new start in life and found out, I'm really smart. I can do things that no one ever told me they thought I could do. They didn't have support at home. They had no one telling them that they were one of the special people in the world, that many of us had the opportunity because our parents did tell us we were those special people. So finding a way to give them the dignity they deserve as human beings, to try again with people who care and want to support them in making a new change in their life is really important. And if we have any reality in telling ourselves that we set up this wonderful thing, 40-40-20, and that we really want to meet it, if you have 25% of your students who aren't making it, it's hard to get to 100% graduation without making a real investment in helping those 25% come back and get that completion, either a GED or a high school diploma or an AA degree, which some people have done without finishing high school. So let's start thinking about investing in that group of people in our state who have a lot to give us if we give them enough to feel in themselves that there's a reason to continue. So I urge your support for this bill, and we look forward to having a conversation about it in the Student Success Committee. And thank you. I'm here for any questions you might have.
Any questions of the panel? I would just say, Senator, your passion on this is certainly well reflected. We know the legacy of leadership that you've left, and we look forward to being able to move this bill for a broader conversation. I also really appreciate the push out rather than drop out, because I do think that there are factors that are true anchors with students and the things that they're having to face And sometimes we see those numbers 75%, 80%, 85%. My district, my home district's up to 93.5%. That's still, in a relatively small school district, we're losing, 10, 20 kids every single year. And we don't ask the question, what's the next step? How are we going, and really making sure that student sees themselves, and where society doesn't give up and say, well, we hit 95 or we hit 80 or we hit 75, that's good enough, because every student has the ability to finish that math class, and get all the way there. So I
All
really
I need was
appreciate
a good
it.
math teacher.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you that.
There you
It's a
go.
big,
He's got
important
extra
part.
time on his hand. If you need to bring your homework in, he's your guy.
And I do want to say that, school districts can make themselves look better by pushing kids out towards the end of their senior year if they aren't going to graduate. They're not going to be in that graduation rate. And they can encourage them to go to a charter school or an online school or this or that. And once they sign up in another school, they get to take them off their roll. They don't count against their GPA. So I worry that there's a lot of kids who are unreported with respect to where you see them as having left and been pushed out of our schools. So we need to, as a society and as a school system, recognize that every single one of those people has value, and with the right support